quick slides, basically 2 slides on how to handle feedback well, 1 on a good process for setting goals, and 1 on dodging layoffs. And then Monica, who is a student of the nature of mind, which I love that characterization. I wish I had thought of it. But is a mindset and transformation coach, will also help with these same concepts. So I'll frame them kind of with my background as a leader. And then she'll take them and give you another perspective on the same topics as a coach. I think we've given enough time. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump in for just a few minutes and talk about these topics. All right. Let me see. I've lost a window I need here. It's the way it goes when you're hurrying. Come on. All right. So quick bio on me. Many of you already know me from LinkedIn, but you may not know my whole background. So I'm Ethan Evans. I was educated as an engineer, picture of me there as a young engineer working on my first commercial software project long ago. After that, I spent 12 years in different startups on the East Coast. So I do have a lot of startup experience. I worked in 4 or 5 different startups, often as a very early employee. I think employee number 6 in 2 different cases. I then joined Amazon. I spent 15 years there. A lot of you know that about me. I went from being a senior manager to a director to a VP, worked on the different products you see mentioned there. And now I work as a coach, writer, and teacher. So that's my background. As I mentioned, Monica is a coach, also a student of nature and mind. We're going to speak, me first, her second, but I want to give her a minute to introduce herself and give her background.
Okay. I'm getting a lot of emails about the Zoom link. Once Ethan starts speaking, I'll reply to those. So hi, everyone. Welcome. I am Monica Vegalam, and I'm a leadership and mindset coach. And my past experience has been with Microsoft. I worked there for a few years, and then I got training as a coach. And now I help senior leaders in the tech industry to build strong executive presence and, overcome their self-doubt and exceed like all expectations, like get into that high performance mode. So that's about me. I'll keep that short. And then I have a mental model for to share today with you all, which will take this whole review season and taking feedback much easier. So with that, I give it away to Ethan.
And I appreciate you handling the link screw up in the background. So I'll take care of the talk, and anybody who missed part of it, it is being recorded. So you can tell people they can pick it up, and as they come in, I'll let them know. All right, so let's jump in. Small private audience right now. So first, about feedback. I have 2 slides on this. And the thing I want to say is we get questions all the time about how to handle tough feedback. And what everybody wants to know is, what do I do when the feedback is wrong? What do I do when I don't agree with the feedback? Because of course, feedback we agree with, while maybe painful, we're willing to address. So I am going to talk some about the pain. I'm also going to talk, though, some about what do you do when you don't agree with the feedback? Because I think that's what everyone really wants to know. So the first thing I say about feedback, though, is you don't need to just wait for an annual review. And in fact, that's a bad idea, because your review is usually tied to your promotion. It's usually tied to your pay raise. Even if companies separate those in time, the wrong time to find out that there's feedback is in your review. You're much better off asking for feedback. And you can ask not only your manager, but also peers, customers, others. Ask other people. And the key you're looking for here is to find out, is your performance actually good? Important. Do other people see it that way? Because we all have high opinions of ourselves much of the time. Even if we have some doubt and we have some imposter syndrome, we naturally like to think our work is very good, and we often don't know how other people see it. And that's why I say, do you really know? So my encouragement to you is go ask other people. Now, the next slide talks about how to ask well. The thing I then want to say is, do listen. All of us get better through feedback, even if it's painful. And it's so much easier to make excuses, to say, well, they don't understand me, or they don't know my pressures, or it's their own ego. We make our human minds, and Monica probably can say more about this than me because she's the student of mine, are very good at making excuses. They're very good at taking us other places. Now, let's talk about how to get and take feedback well. First, if you want to get honest feedback from somebody, you need to give them permission. People are correctly afraid of giving feedback. They're afraid it'll hurt their relationship. They're afraid you'll criticize them in turn. They're afraid you'll disagree, that you'll be angry, that you'll be upset. The easiest thing to say is, oh, you're doing great, because it's safe. If you want it, you have to ask and say, look, I really am looking for some feedback to help me improve on how I'm doing. And I want to, please give me your honest feedback. Trust me, I'm open to it. Then you got to live up to that, though. If you don't agree, don't argue. And here's why. Remember, someone giving you their feedback, it is what they believe. So immediately telling them they're wrong just shuts them down and makes them think that you're not very open. The correct answer to all feedback is thank you. Now, you can say more than thank you, but you don't argue. You don't say that's not right. You can say, I need help understanding that, or I wasn't aware of that, and I'm not sure I understand you. Important words, could you give me an example? So a lot of people would say, oh, your work is sloppy, or you're often late, or you're hard to work with, or whatever they might say. Again, I'm focusing here only for the sake of time on negative feedback. When people tell you that you're doing something well, and you can ask them for that, hey, what am I doing well I could do more of? Or what do I do that really works for you that I could double down on? If you need a little ego hit in the beginning to make yourself feel better, you can do that. Plus, it's good to know. But for the negative feedback, how could I have done this better? And can you give me an example of where, as opposed to just telling me I'm hard to work with, could you take me through where I've been hard to work with, or where you feel my work was late or low quality, or whatever the feedback is? Try to get a concrete example. Some people won't be able to do it, but then what you ask them is say, well, the next time you see it, could you point it out in the moment? Because I'm going to be able to better address your feedback if I have an example. That's the closest you want to come to arguing. Now, this point at the bottom is powerful and dangerous. On the one hand, I would encourage you, even if you don't think the feedback is right, think really deeply about where it might be partly right, because most feedback has some kernel of truth in it. However, sometimes the other person just has some perception issues. They like whatever. They say your communication is unclear. Well, maybe you like to write very short tweet length type communication. The project is on time. And they're the sort of person who wants all the details. The point is, you may need to manage their perceptions or understand what is their expectation. Sometimes people's feedback is about them. I've certainly had feedback when I'm sharing free information like this, trying to help people. I've still had occasionally people attack me and say, well, you're just doing this because fill in their reason. They believe that I have an agenda and that my agenda is dishonest or manipulative or self-serving. That's a narrative in their head, but I still have to deal with it. And so The way you deal with perception is to explain calmly what you're trying to accomplish. And sometimes you have to agree to disagree. Now, if that person is your boss, you may need to think, how can I change what I do? So if they like long, detailed reports and you like to write short ones, you may need to change them. The bottom line here, I want to tell you a quick story about accepting my mistakes. In my work, there were times, I want a specific story, where I got myself laid off twice. And I'll talk about this a little more in the layoff section, but I got myself laid off twice by being loud and strident. Now we'll talk about why it happened twice and so on later on another slide. But the key was I had trouble accepting the feedback I was being given. And so when there was the opportunity to do layoffs, I was never fired, I was laid off. They were happy to put me on the layoff list. Something that may have happened to a lot of people right now that may have happened to you. I was not accepting the feedback. I had a saying I mixed two metaphors, which was people say I'm a loose cannon. That's only because I'm pointed at them. So this was the height of arrogant presumption. What I was saying is, well, yeah, people say I'm abrasive and mean when I tell them they're stupid, but it's only because they're the stupid person. Well, geez, it's no wonder. Like I wasn't seeing the feedback at all of, hey, you're too critical, you're not always right, etc. Now, hopefully the feedback you're getting is not as dramatic. Part of the key to taking feedback well is being open to it and looking at your own behavior. And this is hard. We all want to think really highly of ourselves. So with that in mind, let me transition to our second topic, because you can ask us questions about feedback. If you haven't put questions in the tool, you can ask us questions about them. And I think someone has asked a question here in, oh, they're just making a comment. That's fine. Okay. I can turn on chat so you all can talk also. I'll do that in a minute. Anyway, setting achievable goals. This is the second thing in performance season. People ask, what do I do? How do I set goals so I can get a good performance review? What do I do if my boss is giving me goals that are too hard, that aren't reasonable? How do I push back? Well, I don't want to go into deep detail. There's a model you can look up. Google will tell you about it called SMART goals. SMART is an acronym. Each letter is a component of different goals. So it's like achievable, realistic, time-bound. M is measurable. S is specific, I think. So off the top of my head, it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, something like that. The point is there's a model, and you want to have those components of that model present in a goal. But I want to get more specific than the general goal. First, try to make sure your goals are aligned with business value. This has to do with what gets measured at the end of the year. People like to come up with all kinds of goals. You should mentor more people, and you should be better known, and blah, blah, blah. The goals that end up counting at the end of the year in most businesses are those that produce business value. And so one thing you can do is ask your manager, why are you suggesting this goal? What is the end value? What does this goal achieve? Because that can both help you think about how to do it well and make sure it's a reasonable goal. Because believe it or not, some people just roll their eyes up in their head and come up with goals that sound good. Well, you should take a course this year. Great. What are you telling me? Do I need a new skill? Are you looking for evidence that I'm interested in growth? Why is that a goal? The second thing, and it is the M in SMART, if you're going to be held accountable on a goal, make sure it's measurable and not ambiguous. The worst situation to end up in is you think you've met the goal and your boss thinks you haven't. That's terrible. It should be a number, if possible. It should be something on a screen. It should be something, hopefully, that there is no debate whatsoever that you achieve the goal. In this, you may need to push back with your management. So I have a whole other class on managing up that can talk to you about how to push back on your management. Goals are just one part of that. But you may need to say, how are we going to measure this? Again, ask, how can we measure this? How can we make sure we both agree that it's done? One thing that can help is, do you have the possibility to have goals with flexibility or options? Why does this matter? It's because what happens, you set a goal, call it now in May of 2023, and it comes time for your performance review in April of 2024, and the situations of the world have changed, of your job and your business context, but the goals are still whatever was written in May. And now you're going through them and you're thinking, well, yeah, that project was canceled, but your goal, part of what you're being judged on, is complete project X by August 2023. Well, now you know it was canceled in July. It's best if you can write goals that say something flexible. Like we used to try and write goals in Amazon that said deliver on at least 4 major features this year. Well, the great thing about that is if the priorities change, as long as we shipped 4 features, we met the goal. Or we would say, deliver at least 4 of the 6 following features. So we'd list 6 things we wanted to do and say the goal is to deliver at least 4. That way, when circumstances change, you're not being caught in these outdated goals. Which brings me to the next point, update and renegotiate as needed. The worst thing to do is let an old set of goals create your new performance next year, or your feed into your next year's performance review. And finally, if you're in this situation that you feel like you're being pushed to take unreasonable goals, definitely document changes. This project was added. Hey, I completed this. Goals and goal setting at companies are generally poorly handled systems because they're done as, oh, we have to check this task off, get some goals in the system, get them written down at performance review time, and then everybody forgets them for 9 or 10 months, and then there's a panic at the end. How do I look good? This is not what goals are actually for, right? A good set of goals gives you direction on where to focus for the year, and is more about helping you focus and achieve things and less about performance management. But that's not very often how they're used. So be aware of that and try to make sure they're used right. The third topic, before we go to Monica and then questions, is I said, let's talk a little bit about avoiding layoffs. Hot topic right now. You don't want to be in the situation where the next round of layoffs, if there is one at your company, includes you. So how do you do that? Well, there are 2 types of layoffs. There's probably more, but one is where a whole team or organization is shut down. If you want to avoid that, in a bad economy, essentially go where the money is. In a good economy, you often go towards the hot new project that's like an R&D future. Those are often the first things that get cut in a tight situation. The company focuses on what's making money and how can we invest what people we have on making more money. And so they want to keep their investment on the things that are showing short-term potential, not long-term potential. Now, there's a good argument this is bad business leadership, but I'm not here to talk to you about business leadership. I'm here to talk to you about how to keep your job. If you want to avoid a whole team shutdown, get on a team that's currently successful. And if you have any chance to move, if you're on a team that's missed its dates and is like, well, we don't know if that's ever going to ship, start updating your resume right now because it's a prime target. Now, partial team layoffs are different. Partial team is where there's a team of 25 and the word comes down, cut 20% of your staff. And so the boss of that team has to fire 5 people. This essentially boils down to a few things beyond the most essential work of that team. If the team has some exploratory projects and some things that are like keep the lights running, go try and get yourself working on the keep the lights running work, the stuff that the team cannot exist without. Do the essential work. Now I say stack rank high. stack rank high, most companies in a case where they're going to get rid of 20%, they tell themselves, whether it's accurate or not, oh, we're going to get rid of the bottom 20%. Now, there's lots of controversy about how do they determine bottom and do they do it fairly and blah, blah, blah. That's a bigger topic. Maybe we'll touch it in the questions. They think they're getting rid of the low performers. So don't be perceived that way. It does mean in layoffs, this is a good time to make sure you're doing what you're asked and not being the thorny person who's saying, oh, I think we should use this technology. Oh, I think we should change direction. Oh, I don't want to do that work. That's your freedom in a good economy. If you're worried about holding on your job, it might be good to table some of that for a little while until you're in a position to have other options. And then if you can't do those things, go where the money is, get on the essential work. The ways to prepare for a layoff: cut your costs now while you have the chance, update your resume now, and start building your network. Now, I mentioned earlier, I've been laid off twice. I've told this story on LinkedIn before, so you can go read it there. The key thing, though, that I want to tell you is, look, layoffs didn't kill me, right? Yes, I got laid off twice for the reasons I said. I was highly critical of peers, and I deserved it, by the way. Those were like, I stack ranked low, and I got fired because I stack ranked low. And if I were now the manager, I'd make the same choice about a version of me that people made about me. The point for you, though, is if you are subject to a layoff, whether you're an abrasive jerk like I was at the time or not, you can recover from it. So that's an introduction to our 3 topics to set up Monica's talk as well as Q&A. I have 2 more quick slides. If you want more from me, there's a URL here where I have full-length classes. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm simply telling you it exists on ethanevans.mykajabi.com. If you don't remember that link, it'll be in the video. You can get it later. And these are the other places to find me. So you probably know me on LinkedIn. I have a website. I have a YouTube with, by the way, if you need resumes, a playlist of 36 different resume review videos. I just started a Substack, et cetera, et cetera. So that's it for me. I'm going to kill my screen share and let Monica take over.
Great. That was amazing, Ethan. Can you enable the chat so that people can type in questions?
I'll do that right now.
Okay. Okay, so thanks everyone for hanging out, and we'll be sharing the recording. So don't worry if you have meetings to get to or anything, and we'll be answering questions. So keep typing in your questions. Let me share my screen real quick. Can somebody tell me that you are able to see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, cool. So unlike normal way, I have a document instead of slides. And this is a 13-page document that I'm going to quickly go through. We won't be able to go through it in a detailed way, but I can send you this after this webinar. Just reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll send you this. Okay, so my topic for today is about non-linear leadership. So what I'll explain a little bit about that in a minute, but it's a mental model that you use to leverage feedback that will boost your performance, your career, and your leadership impact. So there's a Zen proverb that says, only when you can be extremely pliable and soft, you can be extremely hard and strong. This is they mean this about like our ego. So Ethan had talked about our ego a little bit, how it gets in the way. So I'm going to get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of what exactly happens that we are not able to get that feedback. So we all know that if you are able to iterate on feedback quickly, that will make you stand out. So we are going to just be open for a few minutes about a new mental model. Just try it on as a quote. This is not the truth, but think of it as something that can help you think about things in a different way. This will help you also build your presence, empower yourself and others, gain trust very quickly. Okay, so let's start with a quiz question. Okay, so somebody comes and tells you, you can come across as too strong and pushy sometimes. And this is like, you are in a one-on-one with a report, you just delivered like an important release and you finished all the retrospectives, you asked for candid feedback. The next thing you might say is, okay, can you give me some specific examples? This is like the advice you will find, right? And Ethan just told you that that's the tip. So in that meeting last week, you were demanding explanations. That's what they say. So my question to you is, what are you predictable to say next? Okay, I'm not asking for the right answer here. The right answer is obviously leaked to you, which is thank you, right? So the question here is, think about in the past, what have you done? What do you tend to do? What are you reliable to say? Do you say thank you? I appreciate your courage and candor. Or do you say, is it option B? Oh, I was not demanding. My intention was to make sure we meet the date. And option C, what do you mean? Can you tell me a specific thing I said that was demanding? And then option D, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Oh, yeah, that incident. So what actually happened was, like you go on to like give explanations. And then option E is, tell me more. Where else did you notice that I was demanding and pushing? So take a pause, think about it. I'll wait. If you can type in the chat, that will be awesome. I want to make this a little bit interactive with the small audience that we have. D. Okay, great. We got 2 Ds. What about you, Ethan? What are you predictable to say?
I was busy fixing chat, so I missed the question. Predictable to say next? What's the...
Yeah, like if somebody gives you feedback, you're too strong and pushy. Okay, we got A, E, some Bs.
Can you give me some
Ds.
Yeah, I think, what am I predictable to say? I probably D.
Okay.
Yeah, if I don't say, if I'm not being emotionally intelligent, I'll try and explain. Yeah.
Okay. So this is like our default response, right? So a responsible leadership is to thank them and be curious about their experience. So like, which is, thank you for sharing that, and then appreciate them for the courage they showed, because they obviously spent some time trying to give you that feedback, right? Probably like they spent their entire shower and like having dinner with their kids and thinking about, okay, how do I deliver this feedback to this person? Like they actually spend some time to make this valuable to you. So I would suggest that you see that their courage and their candidness, and then get curious about, okay, where else do you notice that? Okay, I'm getting distracted by chat. I'll just go here and then go to chat later. Okay, so most of us have a default reaction that looks like B, C, D, or D, which is justifying our good intentions or actions. So option B, which was, oh, I was not demanding. My intention was to make sure we meet the date. We always spend our time trying to tell people what our good intention was, right? And then here, C is, what do you mean? Can you give me a specific example? It looks good, but it is defensiveness disguised as curiosity. And then we justify our actions. Like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. What happened was this, and that's why I said that. Like that person reacted in this way, that's why I reacted that way, right? So we justify that. So even if we are being extra logical and rational, and like we read enough leadership books, we would say, I'm sorry that that was your experience. I'm sorry if I hurt you. Have you ever said that in your personal relationships? Like, oh, you got hurt because I said that. I'm sorry if I hurt you. That is still like, you're still not taking that responsibility. So the impact on the person sharing the feedback is that they close off and they lose that connection with you, and they would think twice the next time they want to give you that feedback. So you want to focus all your effort on trying to understand the impact you're having, no matter your intention. Your intention can be the best intention. Your intention could be to create an inclusive team, but if the impact is not coming across that as that, there is no use justifying your intention. You need to understand your impact. So let's get into that a little bit. So this is the mental model that I'm talking about. There are 4 parts when somebody gives you feedback and you are doing certain things. So when we go out, do certain things at our work, we have an intention, and we do some actions, and those actions create an impact, and people have their own experience of that. And it's somewhat like this, like our intention is this, and our actions like don't represent the intention fully, and our impact almost always is like this. So there is always going to be an unintended impact, and there is going to be an intended impact. So it's very crucial to know this, so that you are not so that getting feedback becomes easy. Just by the nature of the fact that you are doing something in the world, you are trying to deliver results, you're trying to get something happen, you are going to have impact. Some of it may not match your intention. And then this particular part is very important, which is their experience versus your impact. And Ethan talked about it a little bit, like there is a narrative that they have, that drives their beliefs, and that drives them to tell certain things about you. Who knows, right? If somebody comes to you and says, you are strong, and when you said that, you came across as strong and pushy, it might be that you remind them of an uncle or sister they don't like. Like, so their experience, you leave that, but what you want to do is take complete ownership of this impact. But as humans who are looking for social acceptance, not just like in our family, friends, but also at work, 90% of our attention goes here, their experience. We almost always spend majority of our time trying to manage other people's experience. What are they thinking of me? Am I occurring as confident, trustable, valuable to them? And people say that is empathy. It's not. It's like our ego tells us that I am a deeply empathetic person because I care about their experience. But what I am actually doing is trying to control and manage what they think of me, and setting my goals and my actions in that way. And then we put our attention on our logical intention. My intention is to give value, manage this team this way, etc., etc. And so this is what I was saying, that we try to manage and control others' experience so that we get valued, respected, recognized, relied upon, get our social needs fulfilled, and get like intellectual stimulation. Actually, what's happening, we try very hard to manage our experience of ourselves by managing other people's experience. In other words, we are constantly managing our self-image. So in this example, right, in options B, C, and D, these are all ways to prove to myself that I'm not demanding. So when I get defensive, it's because I want to get them to think that I'm not demanding, and get myself to think, prove to myself that I'm not demanding. So, and that defensiveness, whatever comes out, that we are trying to like manage that self-image, is our survival algorithm. Okay, so great theory so far, right? What do we do with this? So this is where the concept of non-linear leadership comes. We think that our intention is driving our actions and impact, but there is an invisible part, which is our subconscious beliefs and survival algorithms. This survival algorithm is basically how we have programmed ourselves growing up. Now, it doesn't matter. It's almost a distraction, whether it came from how my parents brought me up, or I was born genetically to react in certain ways, or my peers conditioned me like this. Whatever may be the reason, you have a certain programming. And that programming is run by your self-image. And it puts you in a linear mode of action. In other words, your default mode. Said another way, what you're always predictable to do, what are you always reliable to do? And some examples are, for me, right? I'm always reliable to work really hard on anything. And for some people, it's they might just learn that curiosity is the way to go, because I tend to not do that. And even that kind of intention and action is driven by this algorithm. So because you have always done it that way, because you know that the best, and because that's familiar and easy. Non-linear leadership is getting out of that linearity and trying to drive your intention, actions, and impact towards your commitment. It's about aligning and bringing these three together. Because almost always when we are in the real world, these never align. Like our intention might be to make space for somebody, but then we can come across as somebody who is very wishy-washy, agreeable, etc. Like that can be their experience, and the impact can be that people just cross your boundaries all over the place. Like you have a team of people who will try to play with certain best practices that you set. So nonlinear leadership is about trying to get these three together without needing to prove anything to yourself. So the survival stories that we have, I'm not good enough, I will remain irrelevant, or they don't care about me, like all these things that come from our childhood and teenage, they get less significant because your commitment is driving everything. So leadership is the alignment of our intentions, actions, and impact. When you remember this, taking feedback becomes much simpler. And if you're a leader, if you manage people, you can always try to look at, is their intention matching their impact? What can I do to help them bring that alignment? And are they taking responsibility for their impact? How can I coach them, help them to take more responsibility for the impact, and not get lost in the experience of others? So when we do that alignment, we are doing that with extreme ownership, radical responsibility, and intentional creation. So it's not about what should have been, what could have been. It's about, given this situation, what can I create? That sounds like really vague and kind of abstract, and it is hard to explain. So in the example that I gave you about somebody coming and telling you that you are pushy and you come across as pushy and demanding, if you were trying to get this alignment, if you're trying to take radical responsibility for that and practice intentional creation, you are going to ask them. First, you're going to get sorted in yourself. Okay, this is what got created. How did I create that experience for people? Can I take ownership of the impact of this? So what's the role of feedback and reflection in this? So when our intention doesn't match with actions, it's because of our subconscious beliefs. So self-feedback and inquiry becomes very important here. So that's what can bring these two in alignment. And your actions and impact, you can get an idea of how they are misaligned by feedback from others. So soft and pileable to receive your impact, ignore your self-image, and act with discipline. That's when you become hard and strong towards your commitment. So remember that, remember to be the eye of the storm so that you can direct the storm and not get lost in it. So I'll stop here. What I have further in this document is a self-inquiry exercise so that you can become aware of your stuff before you can, start making conversations, start, driving results, start, setting your goals in a way that actually are intentional, that will actually cause a better performance for you for the next review season. So this is a lot of these exercises I have taken from world-class coaches and Eastern spiritual traditions. Like I said, I'm a student of Nature of Mind, so I work with teachers who deal with Indian wisdom and Buddhism. So there is a lot here that might be really, really helpful for you. So if you're at a place of what the hell am I doing wrong? What the hell, how am I creating all these situations? Then I would highly recommend that you do this exercise. I gave you some examples here. And I gave you some additional resources on if you want to get deeper into this work. And if you want more help, and if you are an experienced engineering or product leader and you're managing at least 20 people, so there are 3 ways I can help you. One is I work with people 3 weeks, 3 months, or 1 year. I give that kind of support. Send me a private message on LinkedIn. And if you want to get a little bit more idea about this work, get like that self-reflection for the next performance season and get that powerful presence that I'm talking about, register here for a workshop that I'm doing on June 1st. And then you can, if that's all too much for you, come to my live shows on LinkedIn, which I do every Friday at 12 p.m. and hit the bell icon on my LinkedIn profile so that you can get notified about that. So that's all I have for you today. And if you want this document, if you want to do some of this work by yourself, this exercise, send me a message on LinkedIn and say document, and I'll send it over to you. Okay, so we can go to questions now. Thank you, Ethan, for giving me this platform.
Yep.
And thank you so much for generously sharing. Yeah.
If you don't mind, I want to pull rank in a way, just once, because someone in chat asked a question that I have no idea how to answer well, and I'm hoping you do. And then I swear, I promise we will take the questions in voted order from the online questions tool. The question in chat, though, is someone said, I have always cried at jobs when faced with horrible team members. How to ensure to hold back tears, at least as that makes me look super weak. I have had employees cry in my office. I've wanted to cry. I don't know if I ever have. I don't think so in that circumstance, but I don't know how to advise someone who has this problem, that being criticized or getting feedback or what they call horrible team members. Do you have practical advice for this?
Yeah, I have a thought or two. So I was one of those people Like I was just out of maternity leave and I went to my manager and I said, hey, I have goals, I really have goals. I want to do well. But at the same time, I'm not able to put in so many hours because I have my baby to take care of. And I just started crying. And it was like, at that time, I was so embarrassed that I just started crying. The thing was, it really matters how your leader is when you express those emotions. Like Ethan said, he had people come to him and cry, right? If you are working for an amazing manager, they make space for that and they normalize it. And same goes with peers. If you have people around you who support you and who encourage you, they make space for that. It's a normal human way of releasing your overwhelm. For some people, that's what happens. I'm a crier. I cry a lot. Now that's like the one side of it, right? Another side of it is that whatever has you get that overwhelm of emotions in that moment, right? It's because there is certain like lack of capacity to receive feedback. And that's coming from, I'm trying to be careful about it, trying not to be too harsh. That's coming from like your own survival patterns, what happened in the past, etc., etc. Now, I'm not suggesting therapy or anything. Maybe that is the case, maybe that's not. But for me, what helped is getting over the fact that I should be different. I should be someone else. I should look like somebody else. I should already be ahead of where I am right now. Like these shoulds kind of put us into that space of something is wrong with me. Like the first fact is there is nothing wrong with you. There is absolutely like nothing wrong with you. And you might need to hear this from certain people like whom you admire. I would say like get supported, surround yourself with people who would say that there is nothing wrong with you, but still hold you accountable and challenge you to get that next level of performance from you. That's all I have.
I think that's good. I would say, having thought about it a little bit while you talked, if I had anything to add to that, if you're worried about the looking weak part, number one, some bosses will see it that way. Here's the thing. When you start crying, it's a visible sign that you're having strong emotions. Not all managers are good at being in a situation, or peers being in a situation with someone who's having strong emotions. It's their own problem. But many people are uncomfortable around visible signs that someone else is having strong emotions, and they don't know what to do. They're used to, well, when their mom cried, their dad beat them, or all sorts of things that can be going on. And so they're like, oh my God, somebody's crying, I have to stop it. Well, suddenly their mind is completely gone about what the issue is. They're in their own emotional space. So the one thing to do is just ask for a moment. If it's a peer, you may just need to walk away. Say, I can't have this conversation right now, and leave. Managers, good managers will say, do you need a moment or whatever? And it is also unfortunately true, right? In my world, someone crying was called, oh, they're turning on the waterworks. And it was seen as manipulation. Oh, they can't handle the feedback. They're turning on the waterworks. It's a way to gain sympathy and avoid feedback. Because what do we normally do when we see someone who's crying? We say, oh, what's wrong? Let me, there is a sense that if you see someone crying, they must be in pain. And so they need empathy and sympathy. Well, then some people feel that that's being used manipulatively. If you want to stay out of this, if you're feeling strong emotions, it is okay to press the pause button. And it's okay to say, I'm willing to have this conversation, but not right now. And then you go sit with your emotions until you process them, and then you come back to the conversation in a different space. It's a tough question, and I don't feel highly qualified to advise people. I honestly think I have a favorite case of someone crying in my office. It was one of my best engineers. A project was going to be late, and he was so upset it was going to be late that it brought him to tears. So I didn't have any judgment of it. But I have also been in cases that are awkward, where I was trying to tell someone something difficult, and they were having, a strong visible emotional reaction to the feedback by crying. I asked them if they need time, because I still have to finish the conversation, but I don't have to ram them through it right then.
I'll just add a small thing.
Please.
That was really great. Like, pause and then come back later. And say one of the things I used to do is I would just pause and say that, can we talk about this later? And then never go back. That's also not the thing to do. You tell them, hey, right now I'm feeling the strong emotion. Let me get back to you tomorrow by 5 p.m. and get back to them tomorrow by 5 p.m. Have that, give yourself that space, but also be accountable. That's one thing I want to say. Second thing I want to double down is that it's almost always because of like other people thinking that hey, they turned on their waterworks or whatever that is. They don't have the capacity to sit with strong emotions, like Ethan said. And the third thing is, if you have this pattern going on again and again, there are things you can do about it. It requires really taking a solid, honest look at yourself, working with your self-image. I have some techniques. Maybe if you want more help, you can reach out. I can point to some places. Look at Byron Katie's work, and it is called The Work. It works with like your beliefs, and there is like a lot of inquiry exercises. So if this situation happens to you sometime, and overwhelming emotions are taking over, go do that exercise, and it might help you.
All right. Well, let's jump to our first high vote question. Monica, I'll just tell you, I'm not in the admin interface, so I don't know if you need to dismiss the questions from onlinequestions.com as we answer them. I don't know if you're logged in as an admin. Anyway.
Yeah. Do we want to, should I share my screen as
I put it in chat. I pasted it in chat and I'll read it. So I think that's probably fine so people can see us. So I'll read the question. The question was, how do you address both from a mental health perspective, as well as from a career standpoint, feedback which you don't agree with? What are some practical steps you can take to respond to feedback you were surprised by? So I'll take a crack at this first. As always, we will tag team. If feedback surprises you, it is totally okay to say, thank you, I'm going to need a little bit to think that over, and not respond. It's okay to say, I haven't heard that before. It's a little bit surprising to me, but thank you. Give me a little bit to consider it. And then, as Monica just said about other situations, you can completely say, I'll follow up tomorrow. I'll follow up tomorrow by 5 if you need to. If it's a situation, you may even need to say, give me 10 minutes. Let me think about it. But that's one thing. If you're surprised, buy time, and that's okay. That may mean, just to be clear, even just buying a few seconds and say, I haven't heard that before. I need just a moment. And then take your moment, even if you're sitting right there, but leave if you need to. The second part of this is if you don't agree with it. So the mental health part, I've gotten feedback that was very accurate. I shared some of that before. I've also gotten feedback that I realized was coming from someone else's personal issues or perspective. Maybe they're not even, they just have a different perspective than I do. I'm without calling out the person's name, there's someone watching this in our viewers right now that I've gone back and forth with about many topics on LinkedIn. And he's coming from a very different, what we now call lived experience, in that I worked at Amazon and I had a great career there and I was very successful. I don't think the company is perfect. He had a terrible experience there. He was fired in a way that from his story sounds very unfair. But I didn't live his experience. Quite naturally, we see a lot of things about Amazon differently. And so sometimes when I respect him, and I'm sure, hopefully he feels that. He knows I'm talking about him now because he's listening. But sometimes when he gives me input on an issue, I find I sift through it and I say, okay, I can see that. And sometimes I say, I think that might just be a consequence of his experience. Doesn't make it invalid for him, but doesn't mean I'm going to choose to listen to it for me. And that's okay. And it's not the most perfect example, but the key I'm driving at in this case is sometimes people's criticisms of you do come from their situation and they're more about what they're feeling. And maybe, Monica, that's a place where you're very good at this. Maybe you could build a little bit on the point of what do we do when someone's feedback is more about their agenda? Because we all have agendas.
Yeah, so this question is so amazing. And my entire, the document that I just shared is kind of directed towards this. So the subtle distinction that you need to understand is what I said here, your impact versus their experience. You are never responsible for their experience. People have their subconscious reactions, correct? Whatever you think that you are giving them an experience of, it's never going to be that. Like right now, as I'm speaking, I think that in my head, I think I'm being super helpful or whatever, but somebody who might be watching might be saying I don't know, she's just flat or whatever. Whatever your experience is, I'm not responsible for how you're experiencing it, but I'm responsible for the impact that I'm creating on you. If the way I'm saying this is coming across as cold or flat or something, that is the impact that I'm having. And I take responsibility for that, iterate on that. And next time when I deliver a talk, okay, somebody experienced it this way, so what can I do to change that? Do I want to change that? Is that my commitment? So you want to distinguish your impact and their experience and say, what are you committed to? I am committed to transformation. I'm committed to helping people, and I'll do it the best way I can. And it's an ongoing work. Yep. And if you're not getting feedback that you disagree with, I want to say that you're not playing a big enough game. Because when you play this big game, when you get really uncomfortable, you step on the edge, people will have a different experience of you. And that is a sign that you're doing something different. And It feels edgy. It's really edgy. And sometimes I almost want to have this disclaimer for my coaching practice that, hey, are you getting enough feedback? If you're not making messes, then probably we are not a fit to work together. So that's the thing. Go make messes. It is important that you make messes. Only when you fall from your cycle, like bicycle, will you know how to ride it. So if you're getting comfortable, maybe it's time to move if you're not getting enough feedback.
I love that point that if you're not breaking some eggs, you're probably not pushing hard enough. So, Monica, there's a request here. Are you willing to share your document in the chat? There's a little button where you could make a PDF of it real quick and post it in the chat if you want to. So
yeah,
that's,
I could post it. Just DM me on LinkedIn. I need to like edit a few things. Just
okay.
send me a message on LinkedIn.
And then, gosh, I lost track of it. Oh, I know. I often tell this story. I'll make the briefest version of it, but it's a way to understand that you will always be criticized. And the way I explain that is I often point out Bill Gates, he's one example of several, has enough money he could send every man, woman, and child in America $100 tomorrow. It would cost him about $33 billion. He has that. So let's assume for a minute, Bill Gates sends you, me, Monica, everyone else listening, a check for $100 tomorrow. And he writes on it, dear Ethan, wanted to help out. Here's 100. Thanks, Bill. Or best wishes, Bill. Now, how does each of us experience that? The impact is I have $100, but different people experience that differently. Hopefully, many of us say, oh, that's nice. Thank you. That's nice. I like $100. I can use it for shoes. I can use it for groceries, whatever. But here's the key. Think for a minute how many people would criticize Bill Gates and all the different angles based on their own personal beliefs those would come from. First would be the people who say, you fat jerk, you could have given $200. You still are a billionaire. You're still a bad person. So I'm going to attack you because I believe billionaires are bad. Now, no one made him give a bunch of money away. Billionaires can be bad and keep their money, but he gave it away. Now, second, they can attack and say, well, you gave it to Americans. Americans have plenty of money. You should have given it to Indians or Africans or pick your group. You should have given it to save the whales. You should have given it to the planet. You should have given it to women, oppressed minorities. The list would go on. And people from each of their perspectives would come and say, you did this act of generosity wrong because I believe X. Now, they wouldn't say that part. They just say you're a bad person. And so sometimes when people are coming at you, I love this example because here's a key that you can take away that will help you feel better. You are not giving away $100 bills in your work. Whatever it is you're doing, you're not giving away free hundreds to everyone. If he would be shellacked for giving away free hundreds, how are you going to be criticism free? And the answer is you can't, no matter what you do. So if that helps you a little bit with the criticism, hopefully that story, which is easy to remember, you can call to mind the next time you're feeling pain.
Yeah, that's an amazing example. I'll just add like one quick thing. What do you do when you get that feedback that you don't disagree with? First thing, thank them. Like no matter what, see the courage that they brought up. See the candidness that they brought up to give you that feedback. Second thing, be in your own experience, as in, how are you taking it? What's coming up for you? Are you getting defensive? And is that a pattern everywhere else? And like, what can you do to change that? Then third thing is, when you thank them, when you are aware of your experience, the third thing to do is own your impact. Say that I'm sorry that I totally get now. I understand the impact that I'm having, how I am creating that. And I apologize for that. My intention is to do this. So now I'm going to commit to XYZ. My commitment is towards creating such and such team. So I will be whatever. I'm going to make sure that I do that. So that's how, like, practically I would advise to address that. Mental health perspective, work on yourself, be very self-aware of your experience and own that experience. Yes, that's how I'm reacting. That's because of my survival algorithm. And I'm going to work on transcending that. So that's all I have. Maybe we should move on.
Yep. So the next question, and look, there's parts of the first question we didn't maybe answer because there's so much to say there, but I want to talk about this next question. People often talk about increased scope and increased impact, but that's very vague. how do you discover what skills and expertise will be most rewarded in the organization and result in improved performance rating? So paraphrasing here, what do you do when people say, oh, you need to increase your scope and impact? You need to be a bigger leader. These are very vague terms. Monica, do you want to take a first stab at what do you do with vague feedback that's directional or aspirational?
Always take it.
Sure.
So that's
Say
like
thank you.
short answer. And I'm going to like expand on this because this is like lot of my work lies here. Like I say that I convert vague feedback into actionable steps. If somebody gives you vague feedback, for it means that there is an impact you are creating, and they are not able to articulate it properly to you. Okay, so if somebody tells you, you come across as too strong, you come across as aggressive, or the question is about like what, like have this kind of impact in the org where you need to be where you need to improve your strategy skills, right? So whatever it is that's happening, they're not able to tell you, pinpoint you exactly. The way they are telling that, like they're seeing your impact and their experience is mixed with it, and they're not able to separate them and articulate properly. So for you, whoever is getting that feedback, it's very important to try to understand whatever impact you're creating and own that. You need to own that there is something happening here. And am I talking about the right stuff, Ethan? Am I talking about feedback, or is the question about what
I
to do?
think the feedback is, the question is, when you get that feedback, how do you find out what to do about it? So how,
Got it.
when someone gives you the vague feedback of, oh, you need to increase your scope and impact, how do I convert that into knowing what they mean? So I think of it, if I were answering this question, I would start with following up, right? In other words, you said correctly, the person can't articulate what's going on for them. So they're kind of hand waving. How do you, they may be in a position to judge your performance. How do you help them into a space where you can get something concrete that you can address?
Yeah, I think like if it's your manager, it's easy. Like you sit with them and say that, I know that there is something I'm creating here that I'm not clear about. Can we set some goals that, and can we articulate things? My commitment to this team is to show up this way. And we want to drive that results, or like, this is my goal. Like I want to reach whatever position, or I'm trying to create this thing in the industry. Like I would be very straightforward and have that conversation. But just before having that conversation, I would kind of do an inquiry on what might be the thing that they're not articulating that I find elsewhere. Like where else in my life are people asking a little bit more of me, and I'm not able to understand that, meet that, because like we are one person, right? What shows up one place is what shows up everywhere else. So that might be a clue to kind of get what's happening.
Yeah.
And working with friends, asking peers, and bringing that to your coach is the best thing to do, because I have such conversations all the time with my clients.
So you've hit on, at the end of what you said there, what I think you can do here is, obviously you can ask your boss, well, what does more scope or impact mean? Can you give me a pointer? Can you give me a tip? Is there an opportunity you'd like me to step up to? I want to do that. But beyond that, the easiest thing to do, and I teach people all the time, study your peers. People are always telling me, oh, my boss seems to like other people better than me. Great. take a look at why. And by the way, everyone loves to say, well, he likes them because they kiss up. Maybe. Study what's working. In other words, sometimes the best way for me to understand what an executive wanted was to watch what they're rewarding in others. What you can ask them even, who's a great example I can copy? Who is someone that you've seen really step up that I can go ask them what they did? Or you can go ask one of your peers. My boss told me to step up. Our boss told me to step up, told me to grow my scope. What did that look like for you? You don't have to magically interpret the boss. Just look at their actions and ask other people what has worked. One of the greatest tips in all career is study what is getting rewarded and what the management chain is promoting in others, because that speaks louder than anything they say in terms of what they value. You just have to be careful not to be a cynic. Cynics will quickly say, oh yeah, I totally know what they're promoting. They're promoting their golf buddies, and they come up with all these things that point towards favoritism. Now, I believe favoritism is very real, but I don't believe in good workplaces it's the only thing or the dominant thing, and you can't control that. If you don't have season tickets to the local sports team and the other person is using that as a way to spend time with the boss, you're going to have to do something else anyway. So play the game you can play. Let's see. There's yeah. And so this will tell you what is most rewarded in the org. Look at what other people are being rewarded for. That's how you discover it. Where are the rewards going? Because wherever they're going tells you what they want, no matter what they're saying.
I'll just add that favorite, like saying that, oh, because they play favorites, this is happening, is a way of justifying and not taking extreme ownership and responsibility. Like, it may be true, but there is always more responsibility to be taken.
I agree. We find we love to feel good about ourselves. Even, by the way, people who think they feel bad about themselves and are always beating themselves up are still desperate to find ways to feel good about themselves. And so pointing fingers at things we don't control excuses us from responsibility. Normally, Monica does most of the deep student of mind talking, but I've watched this so much in myself and others. If you give us a way to transfer blame from something we might be doing to kind of anything else, we run towards it because it's so juicy. I can either look at myself and say, what could I do differently or better, which takes effort, or I could say, oh, it's because of this, and then I get to go have lunch. And that's so much more emotionally satisfying.
Yeah, you hit the nail, Ethan. This is in my document, like in the inquiry exercise that I gave you, there is a question. What is in it for me? What's my reward? So your self-doubt, even if you're a person like me who gets like very thick stick and beats themselves up, that is also because somewhere deep in your subconscious, it feels good, like it's juicy. It's the only way you know how to make meaning of uncertainty and life. Like, we are in chaos all the time, right? People are saying stuff to us. We have all these big goals. We have this, like somewhere, self-doubt is like explains things. Like, it gets us to feel that we are valued, respected, or whatever that might be. Like, for me, it's that I'm valued, I'm an important person. Even when I think that something is wrong with me, I think that when I think that something is wrong with me, I get more love from other people. Like, growing up, my parents, like, if I feel like, if I get that, anxiety and say, I don't know and all that, they will love me a little bit more. So it's like a bit hard to sit with, but it's an honest thing to look at. And you can do that. It's possible.
I want to rant here for a minute. Rants are fun, and I'm going to rant. it may seem like both of us are talking a lot about soft, fuzzy topics, and we keep going back to your behavior and your attitude. And I'm sure there are some of you who are like, damn it, just give me some specific advice. Stop telling me how I have to deal with my attitude and how I have to look at myself, and tell me what magic words to say to my boss. What magic words to say to my boss. I don't have, and yes, I pasted the wrong thing in chat, so I'll fix that in a minute. That was my mistake. The reason we're both doing this, and then we will move on to the next question. The reason we're both doing this is because the mental game you bring to work is actually the strongest part of your job. Neither of us are here, nor have the ability to teach you to be better coders, better writers. That isn't what we coach on. Better lawyers, better doctors. You're already good at that. You went to school, you graduated, you're on LinkedIn, you're listening to this, you're a high performer. We believe that. It's your mental game of how you show up, as we say in fuzzy language at work, how you handle your relationships, address your pain. That's what's going to make a difference in how you perform. And so that's why we're so going on about this. And so if you want the magic words and recipe, we do some of that. But the key is actually to get strong at your mental game. And that's what Monica is trying to help with very effectively. But you have to engage with it and say, I actually value that skill. I don't just want to hear, oh, how do I say the right words to my boss? You're going to have to look at yourself. And my performance to get where I did came from getting better and better at my mental game.
That's a good call, Ethan. Really great call. And the thing is, it makes all the difference. Like if you see me, right? I have like no experience in organizational strategy or whatever. Like I'm like big on self-doubt or all that. But I have worked on myself to be wherever I am at. Like where I stutter, stammer, whatever it, like all of that I have, but I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but when I keep working on myself, there is a certain power you feel from inside. We say that confidence is not something you acquire, it's a byproduct of working on yourself. People say that, oh, you have to be confident or whatever. It's because you know yourself so well, you know your default behaviors, and you have the discipline to not fall to your default behaviors, that you feel that power. When we don't try to control, manage others, whatever words you say will appear powerful. When you're coming from a stand of being a leader who knows themselves completely, who owns their impact, their behavior, and who is committed to something.
I agree. Strength in leadership comes from being okay with who you are. Not that you're satisfied, but that you're not unhappy. We have time for this one more question. It will feed the souls of those people who are like, damn it, tell me something concrete. The question is, how do you negotiate a severance package? You're in a situation where you might be laid off or put on a PIP. What do you do? So this is like a very concrete, what do you do in a pressure negotiation situation? By the way, a lot of the same stuff will apply to how to get a job or how to negotiate salary or ask for a raise. The first thing is realize that the other side wants to make a deal. So if they're planning on laying you off or they're putting you on a PIP or whatever, here's what they want. Know what the other side wants in a negotiation. They want you to leave silently, not badmouth anyone, and don't sue them. So they have things they want. They want you to smile on the way out the door, make that post on LinkedIn that said, I really enjoyed my time with Acme Inc. I'm looking forward to my next thing. So they're trying to buy that at this point. So you know what they want. So in a negotiation, you know what they want. Now, realize most people, A, when they negotiate, do not start with their best offer, and B, they are expecting a counter. So for example, in the case of a raise or in trying to get a job, it's very interesting most hiring managers expect at least one round of negotiation, but most candidates don't negotiate. So the managers are largely expecting it. Most candidates take what they're offered. As an example, same thing applies in a PIP though. What you say in a negotiation, basically what you're doing is you have to put out your ask for what you want, and you have to give them some reason they can use to justify it. See, because they've made an offer and you simply saying, well, I'd like more, isn't a very emotionally appealing. So you need to give them an excuse or a path where they can feel like, oh, okay, we should give more. Second, threatening isn't a very good tactic unless you have a hell of a lot of leverage. Threatening creates it being adversarial. You're much better off saying anything, hopefully true, like, well, I just bought a new house. This is going to be really tough for me. And I'm an older employee. I'm going to need, I need Acme Inc. to recognize my long service and make my transition humane. Here, you're giving them a reason. You've had long service, and you're playing on, they want to see themselves as humane. No one wants to see themselves as a jerk. And so you're trying to give them ways to feel good about themselves and helping you where you want to go, and give them a rational reason they can explain, like, well, he has been here 7 years, or this special circumstance, that special circumstance. But you have to ask. So I see Monica's smiling. I want to give her a chance to contribute. The key, and I'm one day I'm going to build a whole class on negotiating job offers, and this will be included in it. I'm not an expert negotiator. It just isn't that hard. The last tip I'll say is ask. Remember, you can ask for lots of different things. Everybody wants to ask for money. You can ask for stock vesting to be accelerated. You can ask for a letter of reference. You can ask for all your vacation time to be honored, which is normally done anyway, so it's not a big ask. You can ask for healthcare to be covered for an additional 6 months. You may not get everything, but realize there's, like in a job offer, there's technically like 40 things you can ask for. In a severance, you can ask for a lot of those things too. So realize you may not get just plain more pay or more dollars, but you may get some things that are valuable. So go ahead, Monica, and then we'll wrap up.
No, I don't have anything to add. I was smiling because you're like, that's like, you're saying to make them feel good, right? I was just smiling about that.
Yeah, well, okay. Unless you have real jerks as managers, which most people don't, nobody likes laying people off, right? And often the decision to lay off was made very high in a company, and the person doing the layoff is the messenger. And yes, they may have chosen you. So if I'm your boss, I may have gotten orders, cut 20% of my team, and I may have decided that you're one of those people. But it still doesn't mean I want to do it. I'd rather have you on my team. That's why you were there. Therefore, I want to do everything I can to get through this conversation that I have to have with you, and have you not hate me personally, which is part of what I'm afraid of, and not have to feel as bad. So if you ask me for anything I can give or I can go fight for, I generally want to do it. Now, someone posted in chat that big companies in HR often say it's non-negotiable. Yeah, sometimes. To be really clear, by the way, in a startup I was in that was failing, we once laid off a bunch of people with no severance at all. We pulled them into a conference room and said, we're sorry, today is your last day. You'll be paid through today. See ya. It was awful. And it was terrible. The company was also dead broke. It had it barely had money to pay the next paycheck for the people who were staying. Was it right? No. Was it great? No. Did I see it happen? Yes. Their begging or threatening wouldn't have changed anything, because we'd have been like, yeah, you're going to sue us. Good luck with that, if we succeed enough that you have anything to get, we'll be happy to pay you. Would have literally been our response. In a case like that, you're not going to get anything. From a larger company, though, here's the thing. You have to have the courage to bluff a little bit and say, well, I guess I'm not signing. You know, I look forward to talking to the New York Times about my horrible experience here. Like, that is not what they want. And big companies are willing to pay up to avoid bad publicity. You know, drop a couple names. I've been in touch with XYZ from the Wall Street Journal. There's a journalist who I hear from sometimes. His name is Sebastian Herrera, I believe. He's a Wall Street journalist reporter. If I were in this situation, I said, well, you know, I've been talking to Sebastian at the Wall Street Journal. He'd love to run a piece on how we make layoff decisions here. You'll see a lot of flexibility really soon from a big company. So you got to have.
I'll quickly add two things. One is be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to do that. Second is, even if you have a little bit of self-doubt that, oh, I'm asking for too much, that's going to show. So like work on that. And the third thing is, don't be attached to like a number or like a particular outcome, like be in partnership with them. But I haven't faced this situation, so maybe Ethan's advice is better here. So yeah, I think that's our last question, right?
Yeah, just because, you know, we have so many other questions, but as usual, we've run out of time. That said, I hope we've given you a lot of value. Please follow us on LinkedIn, and we will put up a recording of this. If you're seeing the recording later, we hope you got value and that you'll join us next time.
Yeah. Tell us, was this helpful? Do you want us to do this again? Because I keep pinging Ethan, like, let's do another webinar. So if he
And next
hears
time,
from
I
you,
promise
maybe...
not to screw up the link. I feel so bad about that.
Okay, so all right, I would love to like take a shot at all these questions, but we can't because of the limited time. Maybe we'll answer some of them through our LinkedIn posts. So make sure to follow us on LinkedIn. And if you want that document, do that exercise, ping me on LinkedIn with the word document. I will send it to you. And of course, if you want more help, more one-on-one help, always we are up to helping. Give us feedback. And thank you so much for coming. It was a blast to do this and speak nonstop about all of these questions. These are amazing questions. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you all, everyone. Somebody asked, how can you access the recording? I think you'll mail it out once we have it on YouTube, right, Monica?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you'll mail it out to all the people who registered.
Yes. We'll
All right.
send an email.
I'm going to end the webinar. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.